Yes, Mr. Millett. I think Mr. Batcheldor's on his way.
Very good.
Right, Mr. Batcheldor, all ready to carry on?
Yes, sir.
Good, thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Millett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Batcheldor, thank you very much for coming back to us. Can I ask you, please, to take up your statement where we left off, which is on the fourth page. And in the middle of the page, in the second paragraph, you say, we then decided to make our way up to the next floor. Did anybody instruct you to do that, or was that off your own bat?
That was off our own back.
Right. Why did you decide to go up to the next floor?
To see if we could gain access on the 11th and see if we could help somebody else there.
Right. Did you know of anybody needing help on the 11th at that stage?
Not that we know of.
Right. Did you tell the bridgehead that that's where you were going?
No, again, through comms, I was getting nothing back at all from comms.
Did you try to tell the bridgehead?
Try to contact them again, and then no, there was nothing.
Right. Would it be normal for the bridgehead not to know where you were in a tower block when attending an incident?
It wouldn't be normal, no.
And did you go up with the hoses and branch that you'd left outside, or did you leave those where you'd left them?
We didn't actually get up to the 11th. We didn't actually get up to the 11th before we were halfway on the stairs. We didn't have the hose or the branch with us.
No. Were you intending to go up with the hose and branch?
No, they were still on the floor outside the door by the tent.
Right. And then you say in the next sentence, I saw firefighter Dave Hill from my watch coming up. And you go on to say that his buddy was Madge, and she had helped another BA down with casualty. Is it out of procedure to separate from your buddy?
No, it's not procedure at all, no.
It's out of procedure?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And how you say that Madge had helped another BA crew down with a casualty. How did you know that?
Dave had told us.
Right.
Firefighter Hill when I asked him, where's Madge, where's your buddy? He explained that Madge had assisted another crew.
Right.
And he had gone down with the other crews, so.
Okay. Was that conversation while you were standing in the stairwell outside the 10th floor lobby door?
Yes, it was. Yes.
And do you know who Madge is?
He was a standby from I think it's from Richmond. He was standing by at Fulham that night, so he was part of our crew.
Right.
That evening. So he was who Dave buddied up with.
Right. Do you know Madge is a he, is he?
Yes, he is.
Okay. What's his full name? Do you know?
I think it's Firefighter Manic.
Firefighter Madge.
Yes.
Right. And if you continue, you say, therefore, Neil, Dave, and I made a team of 3.
Yes.
And then you go on to say, we made our way up to the 11th floor, but we hadn't even gone up the stairs before we heard another firefighter screaming for help. And you say, I recognised him as coming from Soho, and I could see that he was tired. He had a woman who was unconscious, and I later found out that he had brought her down from the 18th or 19th floor, and she had suddenly become unconscious and had become a dead weight. That discussion, did that discussion happen at the time, or is this something that you found out later?
This is something I found out later.
Right, okay. Now, the firefighter you recognised as coming from Soho, did you know who that was?
I recognised him at the time, yes.
You recognised? Did you know, or do you know his name?
I can't know.
Okay. We may have him down as being firefighter Adam Johnson. Does that ring a bell or help you?
No, it could be. No.
Right. Did that firefighter have a BA buddy with him?
No, he was on his own.
He was on his own. Now, was his whistle going? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you know where Firefighter Hill went?
Firefighter Hill said he's going to proceed up.
Right.
He's going to carry on going up the tower. When the firefighter with the casualty came, when we came across the firefighter with the casualty who needed assistance, they've said, I'm going to carry on going up to the next floor, see if I can assist someone there.
Okay. And did he?
As far as I know.
Right.
He didn't follow us down, so yeah, I assume he did.
Now, just going on to the top of page 5, after you describe in your statement assisting with that casualty, you say the firefighter from Soho took her legs. By this time, it was proper smoky. When you say it was proper smoky, was it thicker smoke now in the stairwell than you'd experienced when you first came into the stairwell from the 10th floor lobby?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was. We still had visibility. It wasn't obviously as thick as we had come across in the 10th floor lobby area. So we still had some visibility, but the smoke had got a little bit darker and thicker.
Right. Where were you exactly at that point? Were you still on the 10th floor?
We were in between the 10th and 11th stairwell.
Okay. And did you have any idea of where the smoke, which was now getting thicker, as you say, where it was coming from?
No.
Okay. And what colour was it?
It had got darker from when we first got up to the 10th floor. So it progressed on from like I explained, from a lighter grey to a darker grey smoke. But it wasn't. Like I said, we still had a bit of visibility. It wasn't complete blanket.
In the next paragraph in your sentence on page in your statement on page 5, you say, as the three of us were taking the woman down, I saw a mobile phone in amongst a pile of clothes. I shouted out to grab the phone. I knew it was somebody's property and it would have their photos on, and it may help to identify someone. However, by this time we had gone too far to reach the phone and we couldn't stop, as we had to get the unconscious woman out. Did you tell anybody later that there was an abandoned mobile at that location?
It just rang out in my head as I was going past it. I don't even know if I shouted it out in a physical sense.
Right.
I shouted it in my own head, get the phone, that's someone's property, that's someone's belonging, just to get it, but yeah.
And you say you went down, and then you describe the descent in the next paragraph. In general terms, can you describe for us the conditions on the stairs as you descended?
Yeah, it was it's similar to what I found when I was making our way up.
Yeah.
Firefighters were trying to get up the stairs
Right.
on various tasks, and they were trying to make way for us. Equipment was on the floor, which we were stumbling, which was causing us to stumble. Plus the thought of trying to get this casualty out into fresh air as quick as we can to give them a chance to recover. It's we were trying to move as fast as we could, get past other firefighters, get past equipment, clothing, just to get them out of the building.
Looking at the air condition, the condition of the air, the breathability of the air as you descended, did it change at all?
I don't recall it changing. It was smoky, especially around the 4th, 5th, and it didn't really get clearer until sort of we were reaching the bridgehead.
Right. On the way down, did you notice whether any of the lobby doors were open?
I didn't notice, no.
Okay. You didn't look into any of the lobbies,
No,
did you?
I did not, no.
Okay. Now, on page 5, in the 3rd paragraph, you say the stairwell felt very chaotic, but we managed to get the woman out past the bridgehead to the ground floor. Did you know where the bridgehead was at that point?
At that point in time, no. We just didn't even stop to discuss or talk to anyone at the bridgehead. We just made our way straight down to the ground floor
Right.
into the lobby area and to the front entrance, in desperation to get that casualty into some fresh air.
When you went down, did you go past where the bridgehead had been on the second floor? Do you remember?
Yes, we would have done. That was the only stairwell to get out,
Yes.
so we would have gone past it. At that point in time, I didn't notice whether the bridgehead had moved or not.
Right. Okay. You say that you passed the bridgehead to the ground floor, and then you go on a little bit later, 2 paragraphs on from that, to say that you exited the building. Does that mean, do we take from that that you bypassed the bridgehead with the casualty when accessing the outside of the building?
That's correct. Yeah, we didn't actually exit the building. We made our way to the lobby, to the front door in the lobby, ground floor lobby,
Yeah.
where we passed the unconscious casualty to a couple of firefighters that didn't have any BA on. That said that we'd take the casualty to paramedics.
I see. It's just in the next paragraph you say, outside the block there were firefighters, some with BA and some without. We passed the woman to a firefighter without BA for him to take her to the paramedics.
Yeah, so we were inside the door,
I see.
the doorway, and they
Right.
were outside the doorway,
I
just
follow.
just outside the doorway,
I follow.
and literally waiting for us to pass her over to them.
Right. And when you got down to the ground floor, did you notice then where the bridgehead was, or whether it was on the ground floor by that stage?
No.
Okay. And in the process of taking the unconscious casualty to the front door of the building and handing her to the next firefighter, does that mean that you hadn't gone past the bridgehead and tallied back in?
No, we'd obviously gone past the bridgehead because I hadn't noticed it, so I'd gone past it at some point, but I'd had no communication with the bridgehead as of yet. I hadn't reported what we'd done or not done. Hadn't collected my tally back. Priority is at that point just to get that lady to help.
Yes. So at that point, nobody at the bridgehead would know where you were. Is that right?
That's correct.
Nobody at the bridgehead would know whether the deployment to flat 74 would have been successful.
Depends whether they picked up my message that I'd sent earlier on via the Barry set or not.
Yes. So you then say on page 5, in the 6th paragraph, which is the next one down, by this point I was running low on air, so I took my mask off. I then returned to the bridgehead to report what I had done and what I hadn't done. The bridgehead had now moved from the 2nd floor to the 3rd floor. Neil and I collected our BA tallies to register that we were out of the fire. I informed them that we were unable to enter the 10th floor. Now, does that mean that you were still under air when you'd come down and handed the casualty to the firefighter at the main door?
That's correct, yes. We were still under air until we passed the casualty to the firefighters to remove to LAS.
Right. Why was that? Why were you still under air?
Because we had taken that casualty from in between the 10th and 11th floor under air, and we carried her all the way down. We didn't stop to take our sets off, stop to have any communications. We just got straight down to the front of that building for help.
Now you say, as I've just read to you, you returned to the bridgehead to report. Did you look for the bridgehead, or did somebody tell you that it was now on the 3rd floor?
I can't remember that.
Now we've got your end of wear time as about 2:33 a.m. 02:33 a.m. Does that sound about right to you, given that your tally out time, in other words, the time you left the bridgehead, was about 2:17?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And when you got to the the bridgehead on the 3rd floor, who was running it? Do you remember?
No, I don't know.
Was it? Do you remember whether it was still the officers who had been operating the entry control when you deployed?
I genuinely cannot remember who I reported to. I would have gone direct to the entry control board.
Right.
I'd have gone direct to them. And again, that part of the memory has gone straight from my head. That we were halfway through debriefing. I was halfway through explaining conditions on the 10th that we hadn't been able to get to flat 74. And then I was halfway through that, collected my tally. And that's when a firefighter came stumbling down the stairs with a 12-yard girl in his hands. And she like fell on top of us. And so straight away, focus was redirected again.
And you say that you reported to the bridgehead, as we see in the next sentence. You say, Neil and I collected our BA tallies to register that we were out of the fire. I informed them that we were unable to enter the 10th floor. Do you remember who you were debriefing to?
No, I don't.
And you don't remember whether it was the same entry control officer or bridgehead commander as was on the second floor?
No, I do not.
Okay. Did you say anything to the bridgehead about the female casualty that you had assisted down the stairs?
No. At that point, by the time, I think I managed literally just to get out that we couldn't gain access to that FSG call. I think I'd literally just got that out.
Right.
That conditions on the 10th and that we couldn't get there before I could get another word out. That's when we were involved in another situation.
Okay. So do you know whether or not the bridgehead then redeployed a crew to flat 74?
That I don't know.
You don't know. Did you, in the short time, and it sounds like you were at the bridgehead, did you see any fire survival guidance information being recorded there?
No.
Okay. Now you then say, as you just told us, and this is in the last paragraph on page 5 of your statement, as I was explaining the situation, a firefighter came down with a young girl and fell on top of us. I said I would get her out, so I took her to the ground level. I was no longer with Neil. And you go on to describe some details there. My question is this: did you ask her which flat she'd come from?
No, she was in a she was conscious,
Yes.
but she was in a very traumatic state.
Right.
She was crying heavily, and she just kept calling out for her mum and her dad.
Did you pass any information to the bridgehead about the little girl?
No.
Was there an opportunity to do that?
No, again, the firefighter that brought her down, I took the casualty, and then my priority from that point was to get her outside
Right.
to receive treatment.
And you say that in the same paragraph there was debris falling from the building, so you put your helmet on the little girl. Just so that we're clear, did you take her out of the main entrance on the south side or another entrance?
No, I believe it was the main entrance exit south side.
Right. And how long roughly after you had after the end of wear time do you think you took her out of the building?
It was almost immediately.
Right.
It was I shut down my set on the ground floor lobby after we'd passed the adult casualty that we'd brought down to waiting firefighters. So I shut my set down. Then I went straight back up to the bridgehead to collect my tally and report what had happened. And it was at that point, like I explained, halfway through debriefing, that this girl came down the stairs with the firefighter, and then just took her immediately straight out.
So you shut your set down before you went back to the bridgehead to collect your tally?
That's correct.
I see. Is that normal?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And you took her out of the main entrance, as you said. Was there any system in place at that stage to protect casualties coming out of the building from the falling debris?
No, not at that stage, no.
Okay. And I think you say you took her to a paramedic area by the leisure centre. Is that right?
Yes, yes. When I'd first come in the building, I hadn't seen any paramedics, so I didn't know. I didn't know where this treatment area was.
No.
So as I come out of the building, I remember shouting to someone, "Where are the paramedics?" And all I heard back was they're over the back, and they kind of pointed in a general direction. I didn't have a clue where that was. I wasn't overly familiar with that area ground. So I just went in that direction of where they pointed. So it probably took me a good 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, 5 to 10 minutes to actually find the paramedic station.
Right.
Luckily, the girl, like I said, was conscious. The young girl was conscious and then breathing, just heavily traumatised and upset. And she had like a soot around her mouth and eyes. And I was trying to wash that away with a bottle of water that I picked up off the floor.
Right.
While trying to find where the paramedics were.
And you go on to say that you found the family and you were able to reunite them.
Yeah, when we she was crying out, "I've left my mum, my dad," and I think it was her brother. I think she said brother. I can't 100%, but they're in there. I've left them in there. I've left them behind. When we eventually come to the paramedics area, they were crying on a large piece of tarpaulin, and she literally just pointed at them, and they jumped up and came and grabbed her off me. Beautiful.
Let's take a minute. You okay?
Yeah.
We can take a break.
Fine.
Okay. I'm now going to turn to a different subject, which is a telephone conversation you had with a female in the tower.
Yeah.
Are you okay to continue with that?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. I ought just to give a warning to those present that I am going to be discussing something that people may find a little distressing or very distressing. So if anybody does not want to hear about the evidence about discussion between this witness and Zainab Dean, then perhaps they should leave now.
All right. Can I just say to Mr. Batcheldor, if at any point you feel that it would be helpful to you to have a break, please just indicate.
Thank you, sir.
Now, if we look at your statement on page 6, in the third paragraph, or fourth main paragraph, which is where it starts, you say you made your way back to the front of the building to see what needed doing next. And then you go on to describe how you saw somebody on the phone. The first question I have is, do you remember exactly where he was, the man with the telephone?
Yeah, he was probably standing about 10, 15 foot away from the front entrance of the main front doors of the tower. I was at the southeast corner, a bit further away, just redoing my set.
Right. And are you able to help us with the time at which you first saw him, working forward, I suppose, from your end of wear time of 2:33?
Okay, so we're working 2:33 from when I received my tally back out of the BA board.
Yes.
Then I'm guessing, like I said, it took me roughly 5 to 10 minutes to take the young girl to the paramedic area. From there, I walked, because I still had my set on, I walked straight down to the southeast corner, so maybe 5 minutes tops. So maybe another 20 minutes or so
Right.
after my shutdown time.
Okay. Now, I do need to put this to you, but we have a 999 call from a female in flat 113 with a baby timed at 3:17 who was told to leave. So that's a conversation we had with that time on it.
Okay.
Does that help you, knowing what the call you had with her involved? Does that help you put the time on your conversation with her, or the starting point of your call with her more accurately?
Not massively, but that sounds like that would be around the start time.
Now, in your statement in the 5th paragraph on page 6, you say, I took the phone from Francis, because that was the man's name,
Correct, yes.
and spoke to the woman. And she said, my name is Zine. I'm with my son. I'm on the 14th floor, flat 115. I said, stay on the phone to me. Now, just pausing there. Do you remember any watch managers being, you refer to watch manager Tom Fennell, but other than him, do you remember any other watch manager being nearby?
No, I don't. No.
Okay.
No.
Do you remember somebody called watch manager Coltress from Shoreditch?
I don't know.
Okay.
It was a real heavy dynamic scene of operations. There were other firefighters running around.
Right.
There was other watch managers running around. As in specifics, did I see this particular person? I can't 100% say.
How confident are you that you heard her say 115?
Again, now, that's what I remembered the following morning after a long night.
Yes. Okay. Watch manager Coltress has given us a statement, and he has said that he checked with the bridgehead that they were aware that Zainab was in flat 113, in fact, and not 115.
The number that I gave the watch manager outside,
Yes.
when I first took the call, within 30 seconds of taking that call, I reported it immediately to the nearest watch manager that I saw, who I believe to be Tom Fennell. I believe he was dealing with FSG calls outside the building. I think he was using a large refuse bin that had sheets of paper all over the top of it. I went straight to that person there and explained to them, I've got a lady and her 2-year-old son in flat, whether that was 113 or 115, whatever she told me at that time, I relayed that immediately.
Right.
So whether 10 or so hours, 12 hours later, I've written down, I've remembered it as 113 or 115. But the flat number that she gave me, I gave that directly to that watch manager, so it would have been correct at that time.
Right. I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. I'm sorry to explore this in a bit of detail, but to be clear, did she say that she was in, do you remember that she said she was in flat 113, in flat 115, or that she lived at flat 115?
No, she didn't specifically say, I live here. She just said to me, so I said to her immediately, where are you?
Right.
What floor are you on? What flat are you in?
Okay. And you say in your statement, just going back to it, watch manager Tom Fennell was dealing with fire survival calls from a position outside the building, so I asked his advice. We have, you say Fennell, in fact we have a watch manager, Thomas Furnell.
That's who it is, yeah. This has been written out incorrectly.
That's okay.
And yeah, This is not my wording. Asked his advice. It's not my wording either. I reported that call to him, basically.
Now, you described just a minute ago what he was doing outside the building, working on a large bin with sheets of paper all over the top of it, you've said to us. Did you know what he was actually doing? Did you see what he was doing?
I remember asking him. I remember saying to him, "Are you doing the FSG calls?"
Right.
And he said yes.
Right.
That's why and I reported that. I said, "Have you got this floor, this flat?" And he had a look, and he said to me immediately, "We've got that reported down. We've got them already
Right.
reported."
Do you remember what he looked at in order to confirm?
No,
that
he
he'd got
went.
flat
He
recorded?
looked over the bin where he had his sheets of paper spread out. What system he had in place, or how he had it organised. I'm not 100% sure of, but he looked at what he had in front of him, and then said to me, "Yep, we've got that reported. We've got that already."
You, just to follow that up, you say he had sheets of paper spread out. Did you recognise those sheets of paper as a particular form?
No, I do not.
Were they control information forms, do you think?
I couldn't tell what they were.
Right. Did you know where he was getting his information from?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Did you see who he was giving his information to?
No, he had a few firefighters around him. What would normally happen is they'd be used as runners,
Right.
especially on a night like that where radio comms may not be the best form of communication. I'll take he was using them runners.
Okay.
Again, I can't 100% confirm that, but
Did he have any other watch managers with him, helping him or participating in that exercise?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you remember if the flat for which watch manager Fernell said he had for Zainab was 113 or 115?
No, I don't recall.
Don't recall.
He said, I just remember giving him the information that Zainab had given me immediately, and him immediately confirming,
Right.
we've got that recorded already.
Right.
We know about that call.
When he said he had it recorded, or he knew about that call, what did you understand by that?
I understood that what I took from that was that someone in that flat, Zainab, or if anyone else was in there, had made a call, 999 call, and that the information given was then given to the fire ground, and that was recorded as a FSG call. So I took it as though we knew there were people in that flat who we needed to go and help, and missions were being carried out to do that.
Did you gain any understanding from what he said to you that firefighters had already been deployed to that flat?
No, I didn't know.
Okay. When you say you asked watch manager Fernell for advice, what advice were you looking for from
Yeah,
him?
that's worded incorrectly. I never said that in my statement. That's worded incorrectly. I know it's in my statement, but that's not what I said in the recording. I was reporting a situation to him,
Right.
and it was that quick, that dynamic. It was literally, Tom, I've got this lady on the phone on this floor in this flat. She's with a 2-year-old son, and then he had a look. He said, "Yeah, we've got that written down already, Chris." And then that was my dealings with him at that particular time.
Did watch manager Fernell tell you anything else?
No.
At that point, just standing back from the specifics of this conversation, at that moment, did you know how far firefighters were getting up into the building?
At that point, no.
Okay. When you were speaking to watch manager Fernell, was the lady still on the telephone?
I was on the phone to her all the time. Yeah, I told her not to put the phone down. Stay on the phone.
Right, okay. At this stage, and again, we can't be specific about timing, did you know what the advice being given to residents generally inside the building was?
She said to me, as soon as I spoke to watch manager Tom Fennell, I stepped away from his scene, and she said to me, we can't get out. We've been told to stay in the flat. We can't get out.
We can't get out. We've been told to stay in.
Yeah. So I took it as though the stay put policy was still in place.
Right. Did you get the impression from what she said to you that she was trapped in the flat?
Yes, I did.
But she also said, did she, that she was told to stay in the flat?
Yes.
So both?
Yes, both.
Right.
I'd just come down from the. I'd already been in the building. I saw what conditions were like in the lobby that I was sent to.
Right.
I had no other belief that it wasn't like that on any of the other floors.
Right.
So if she's telling me she can't get out, I was taking it that she's trapped in that flat and she is just following the stay put advice.
Right. The stay put advice wouldn't be given normally, would it, to somebody who was trapped and had no choice?
It would still be given, because you have to, when people are stuck in a situation where they are literally petrified for their life, they would sometimes not make the best decision. So even though they could see maybe the atmosphere outside that door, being told to stay put would be a reassurance to them. Sometimes people would panic and maybe want to make a run for it, a chant, to try and get out, even though that may not be the best thing to do at that particular time. So even though it may seem obvious to people who don't understand that why you tell them to stay put when they can't get out, you still have to reassure them by telling them that.
Right, I follow. So the stay put to a trapped person is given by way of reassurance rather than
Yes.
by way of advice
Yes.
that you take seriously, or literally.
Yes.
I follow. That's all. Now, looking at your statement, on page 6, in the last paragraph, you advise her halfway down to go to the least smoky room, shut the door and put clothing down at the bottom of the door, and to lie on the floor and put clothing round her little boy's face. Did you consider advising her or helping her to assess whether it was safe to leave?
No, I took her word that
Right.
she couldn't get out of her flat. So now my aim was to try and keep her as safe, her and her son as safe as possible, until what I believed we would get in and help her out.
Did she tell you what the conditions were like in the flat?
I remember saying it is light smoky at that time.
Okay. That you say at that time, that's at the start of the conversation with her?
Yes.
Did she speak of fire in the flat?
No.
Now, I want just to ask you about some timing questions. At the bottom of the page, page 6, you describe there what you say to her and she says to you. And then you say at the top of page 7, I was on the phone saying this to her for 30 to 35 minutes. I was gagging to hear the door getting kicked in. I was just waiting to hear someone shout casualty to signal that they'd been found. On the timing issue, 30 to 35 minutes, when, in your recollection, does that time period start? Is that from the start of your conversation with her?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say it was.
Did you say?
From then, it was just a case of just trying to reassure her and stay on the phone to her.
Right. And during that period of time, did you say, where were you physically?
I was around the southeast corner of the tower, with Francis Dean. I was 1 minute I was sat on the floor. Next minute I was pacing. But all the time, Francis, he was around the vicinity as well. I was trying to keep my eye on him at the same time because he was obviously very upset and animated, and I was worried he was going to try and make a run for the tower, and so I was trying to make sure I had my eye on him as well at the same time.
During this period of time, this 30 to 35 minute period you speak of, did you have any further contact with Watch Manager Furnell?
No.
Did you have any discussion with anybody else who was dealing with FSGs?
No.
The Bridgehead?
No.
Did you look for any updates as to the progress firefighters were making to get to that flat?
Not until I believe her sons were passed away.
And that's, I think, something you cover in the next paragraph of the statement. Is that right?
Yes.
And in the second line, you refer to 30 to 35 minutes. Is that the same 30 to 35 minutes that you refer to in the first paragraph on that page?
Yes.
And then you say that you passed the phone back to Francis, and there was a conversation that you described there, and then he passed the phone back to you again. Is that right?
Yes. That during the first initial 35 minutes, Jeremiah, I could hear them both coughing and crying, and it was about that 35-minute mark that Zainab told me her son's dead. He's dead, and I don't want to be here anymore, and I want to be with him. And it was at that point, I had to try and tell her not to be like, you ain't giving up on me now. Don't talk like that. You carry on fighting. And it was then that I thought, just she needs to hear someone's voice, Francis's voice. And I just said to Francis, he wasn't next to me, he didn't hear what I was listening to, so he didn't know what was going on. But I just said to him to tell her you love her, Francis, and to carry on fighting, and you're waiting for her. And I held the phone to his head, and he did. He said that to her, and before she could say anything to him, I pulled the phone back. And I explained to her, see, there's people waiting for you. There's people down here waiting for you that love you. Don't give up on us now. Carry on fight.
Should we have a break? I think you could do with a break.
I'm okay if you want to carry on. This doesn't go anywhere.
It's a very difficult thing for you to talk about. I quite understand that. Have we nearly got to the end of this particular section of your questions?
We're quite close to the end.
Should we just finish this subject and then we will have a break?
Carry on. Yes, please.
Sure.
Yes.
Can you estimate, even roughly, how long Francis was on the phone to Zine when you gave it the phone
Seconds.
back to her? Seconds, right.
Just enough time to say what I told him to say, and then I took it straight back.
You then say in the next paragraph, when I took the phone back, I could hear her coughing. I could hear other sounds like banging in the background, and I kept thinking that the firefighters had reached her. Did you have any idea of what those sounds in the background were?
No.
Could you hear anybody else in the background, in the flat, with Zeno? Zainab?
No.
Now, you then go on to say in the next sentence, I spent another 35 to 40 minutes on the phone to her in total. Is that another 35 to 40 minutes in addition to the initial 35 to 40 minutes we've talked about already?
Yes. It was at that point, after I took the phone back from Francis, that's when I went to watch manager Fennell again.
Yes.
Just to ask him, where are we? Oh, you know, where we know what's going. Where are we? Where are we? Are we there? Are we nearly there? Are we nearly at her yet?
And you cover that in the third line of the third paragraph on page 7 of your statement. And when you say, where are we, what were you asking him?
I was asking, one, I wanted to know, I wanted assurance that someone's been deployed to her, and if we had any feedback of where they were, how they were getting on.
What did he say to you?
He just looked at me and shook his head and said, I'm really sorry, Chris, we ain't getting past the 12th at the moment.
Right. Is that the first time you heard that?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Was that the first update you'd had from Watch Manager Fennell since you'd been on the phone?
Yes, it was,
today?
yeah.
Now I think you remained on the line to Zainab after Watch Manager Fennell had told you this. Do you remember how much longer?
It would have been at least another 30, 35 plus minutes.
Right. And then in the last paragraph, you describe hearing Zainab, and then you describe some screaming, and then you say, when it stopped, I knew that was it. I hung up the phone. The whole phone call lasted about an hour and a quarter. That estimate of an hour and a quarter, do you think that's right, in the light of the...
I'd say so, yeah.
So 35 plus 35.
There was a point, it was around halfway through the call, that we got disconnected.
Right.
And literally for seconds, because I just pressed recall straight away again, and she answered. That must have been around the halfway stage. We become disconnected,
Right.
Called her up again straight away, and then I remember it being at least another 40 plus minutes
Right.
after that.
So you called her. You were able to call her back with ease.
Immediately, yes.
And then afterwards, you, I think, led Francis to the paramedics area.
Yes. For about 10 minutes of that phone call, the line was quiet. She stopped coughing. I stayed on the line in case you could still hear me. So, and it wasn't until about 10 minutes that I got confirmation, I think, that she had passed away, from what I could hear, and the phone then went silent again completely. And a few minutes after that, I put the phone. I disconnected the line. Told Francis that I think the battery must have gone on Zainab's phone. We must have become disconnected. Again, I couldn't tell him what I was listening to. He didn't need to know that right there and then. I didn't feel, rightly or wrongly. And then he was just asking, where are you? Have you got her? Have you got her? And I just felt like I needed to get him away from the building, really, because we were both standing there watching the effects of fire in the building. So I took him up to the leisure centre where I knew the police were, and explained to an officer who he was and that he was waiting for somebody to come out of the building, a family member to come out of the building, and gave him his phone back, and then the officer escorted him to either inside the leisure centre or to somewhere else where they were waiting for news on their family. Before that, I got him to write down on a bit of notepaper I had Zainab and Jeremiah's name and ages, contact details before I gave him to the police.
Can I show you a piece of paper to see whether that corresponds with your recollection of what he wrote down? It's LFB quadruple 01968. Please, Mr. Documents Director. And it's page 17 in it. This is it looks like a firefighter's notebook piece of paper.
And that's his phone number.
That's
Yeah, that was it.
That's the piece of paper, is it?
That was it.
Can you see on it, it says 115 arrow 113? Do you remember seeing that?
No, I think no, that was added. He wrote their names down and their ages, his name and phone number.
I see. And you think 115 to 113 was added later, do you?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. Do you remember seeing it without that those notations on it?
No.
Do you remember seeing it but without those notations?
Yes, sorry.
Yes, I understand. Did that piece of paper, did he give you that piece of paper?
I took it, I ripped it from my notepad.
Yes. That's
And,
I see, that's your notepad?
Yes, it is, yes.
I see.
And then he wrote the details down. And after I'd given him his phone back and left him in charge with
Right. And
I took that bit of paper and took it to the command unit that I believe was dealing with the FSG calls. I went in and explained to them who these people were and gave that bit of paper to them.
did you see what they did with it?
No.
Did you have any further contact with Watch Manager Fernell?
No.
Did you have any further contact with anybody on the ground on the night about that particular incident?
No. Just people asking if things were okay.
Can I just ask you a question going back to the conversation you had with her? Did Zainab tell you whether anybody else was in the flat?
She didn't know.
Apart from her son?
No.
Did she tell you that, or whether anybody had been evacuated previously from that flat?
No, she didn't mention it, no.
Crew Manager Batcheldor, I'm very grateful to you. I have no further questions for you. It may be appropriate to take a short break because there may be one or two things that I've missed which I just want to cover, but would you bear with me?
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Batcheldor, we'll have a break now in any event. It may be there'll be a few further questions for you. We'll have to see when you come back.
Okay.
Please don't talk to anyone about your evidence when you're out of the room.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to go to the usher? And we'll resume at 3:05. Thank you very much. Right, 3:05, please. Thank you. I gather you have one more question, Mr. Millett.
I do, Mr. Chairman, yes.
Right, well, Mr. Batcheldor is on his way back.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Batcheldor?
Yes, sir.
I think there's only one more question to come, but we'll see anyway. Yes, Mr. Millett.
Mr. Batcheldor, thank you for coming back. My question is this. When you were on the telephone to Zainab and having this discussion with her, did she tell you at any stage that she'd been moved into the flat she was in from another flat?
No, she didn't, no.
No. Okay. That's my question.
Right.
So I just want to say now, finally, thank you very much, Crew Manager Batcheldor, to you for giving what cannot have been easy evidence. I'm extremely grateful to you for coming here and assisting us with our investigations. We really do appreciate it enormously. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to echo Mr. Millett's words of thanks. I think it must have taken a lot of courage to come here and talk about those experiences in public. And I'm sure a lot of other people in this room are very grateful to you for having done so. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
All right, would you like to go with the usher then, please? So, Mr. Millett, no more witnesses for the time being.
No.
But can I just...
Yes, there may be some housekeeping matters.
Well, there may be, but we'll see. But before we get to those, I think that as the inquiry is about to adjourn for the month of August, this seems to me to be an appropriate time to take stock of progress of the evidence gathering so far, and also to outline the timetable for the remainder of Phase 1. As you all know, hearings began on the 21st of May with the commemorations held at the Millennium Hotel in South Kensington, and apart from a short break during the second week of June, have continued without interruption. Normally, we've sat to hear evidence from Monday to Thursday between 10 o'clock and 4:15, but on many occasions we have in fact sat on Friday, and often hearings have started at 9:30 in the morning in order to keep up the momentum. We had originally planned to complete the firefighters' evidence, including that of the senior officers of the London Fire Brigade, by the end of this month, by the end of July, and so to be in a position to start taking evidence from the former residents of the tower and others in September. However, as you will realise, the process of taking evidence from the firefighters will now need to continue after the summer break. There are a number of reasons for that. In the first place, it's notoriously difficult to predict how long any witness will take. More significantly, however, it's turned out that many of the witnesses from whom we've heard have had much more to tell us than was apparent from their statements. One result of that is that it's often been necessary for counsel to pursue lines of inquiry that became apparent only in the course of the witness's evidence or from evidence given by earlier witnesses. And to pursue useful lines of inquiry is, of course, the whole purpose of the inquiry. Added to that is the fact that from time to time it's been necessary to take more frequent, or in some cases rather longer, breaks in the hearings to accommodate witnesses' personal positions. And I should perhaps add to that that the number of firefighters who have been called and will have been called to give evidence in person has grown in response to requests from some of the core participants. It's also right to mention that since the start of the Phase 1 hearings, there's been substantial further disclosure of documents and photographs to the inquiry by the LFB and through the Metropolitan Police, and the police have disclosed further firefighter statements and exhibits. the new materials have had to be considered by the inquiry team and disclosed to core participants and then put to the witnesses where necessary. All that has increased the time taken to examine the witnesses and in some cases has made it necessary to call further witnesses. All these factors have played a part in setting the original timetable back by a few weeks. Hearing further firefighters' evidence in September will probably take up much, if not all, of that month. So we now expect to hear evidence from former residents of the tower during October and the expert evidence in the first half of November. We expect to complete hearing all the evidence relevant to Phase 1 before the end of the year and then to be in a position to deliver a report early in the new year. But I'm pleased to say that progress of work on Phase 2, which is continuing in parallel with Phase 1, should not be significantly affected by the delay. We shall continue to provide more information about the timetable for the proceedings on the inquiry website over the coming months. In the light of the progress so far, I've come to the view that there should be a further procedural hearing at the beginning of the next session, indeed at 9:30 on Monday the 3rd of September, before we resume taking evidence. The hearing will have to be short. I'm going to allow a maximum of an hour and a half so that the evidence that is already timetabled to be heard on that day can be completed within the day. It would be very unfortunate if we were to start losing time on the first day of the next session. The hearing will cover 4 particular matters. First, the nature of and the limits on the evidence to be adduced from senior LFB officers as part of Phase 1. Secondly, the programme for taking evidence from BSR witnesses and the approach to any special arrangements which may be needed for them or others if it's not been possible to reach agreement on that question by them. Thirdly, the preparation and presentation of the evidence necessary to discharge the Article 2 function in relation to each of the deceased and the programme for carrying that out. And fourthly, the approach to be taken to identifying and formulating potential recommendations arising out of the Phase 1 evidence. I envisage that at that procedural hearing, counsel to the inquiry will be asked to make a brief opening statement, after which I will hear from counsel from those core participants who wish to be heard. In order to ensure that the hearing can proceed efficiently, those who wish to be heard must file a skeleton argument in electronic form with the solicitor to the inquiry, not later than 4 o'clock on Tuesday the 28th of August. Skeleton arguments must be limited to 5 pages. I know that's quite a challenge, but it seems to me important to try and do that. So skeleton arguments to be limited to 5 pages, and it would help me if they were drafted with 1.5 line spacing. Bullet point submissions would be particularly welcome. Given the limited time available, I shall expect oral submissions to be brief and succinct, and as on previous occasions, I shall expect counsel to cooperate with each other in order to avoid repetition and make the best use of the limited time available, because we must ensure that we start with the witness promptly at 11 o'clock. Finally, if any of you are able to take a holiday over the next month, I hope you have a very enjoyable time. Yes. Mr. Mayor, anything else we need to deal with?
Mr. Chairman, no. Thank you very much. And that is the business of the day, I trust.
Good. Thank you very much. Mr. Mansfield, I can scarcely hear you from here, and you ought to realise that you're not going to be caught on camera standing where you are. So if you wish to address me, would you like to come up here? You can pretend you're a witness for a moment.
We'll only take them out. Yes, it's a request from the families that I represent, and I think others as well. In a sense, it's foreshadowing what you've just said for September. There is a widespread feeling amongst the families of a sense of urgency, and that urgency relates to the possibility of helping other communities who live in tower blocks very similar to the one that they were in all over the United Kingdom. The urgency is this, that the evidence that you've heard so far gives rise to, we would contend, some urgency, not only that, but also some obvious, and we say manifestly obvious, possible recommendations that obviously could wait until the interim report's publication or just before, but the risk there is that another 9 months would go by. Yes. And so we would ask, would you be prepared in the interim, that is this break, to receive examples of what we call the obvious and manifestly obvious urgent requirements for precautions in these other tower blocks that could be taken, well, we say tomorrow, but certainly very soon. That's the request.
All right. Well, now, Mr. Mansfield, so I've already indicated I expect to hear submissions as to how we should go about approaching that aspect of things when we have the procedural hearing in September. But if you wish to formulate any suggestions, we shall receive them gratefully.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, Mr. Millett, is there anything else that we need to
Not
do?
so far as I know, no. So that, I think, does conclude the business of the day.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, then I'll look forward to seeing you all, or at least those of you who are going to be back here, at 9:30 on the 3rd of September. And as I say, if you can have a holiday, I hope you enjoy it.